Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If you've already been to the channel, welcome if this is your first time. So, are you struggling with joint pain, bloating, low energy, your emotional eating because of cravings? Well, today we're going to crush that inflammation, nourish our body with foods and supplements that truly heal, and stop that emotional eating. Okay, so lots of good stuff in store. I am Gio Elvitt, an emotional wellness coach dedicated to helping menopausal women thrive through emotional wellness. We get to the bottom, the root of things. We don't just focus on the symptoms. We try to get a deeper dive into the root cause of our symptoms so that we can heal our whole mind, body, and emotions. Okay, so let me know where you all are connecting from today so that I know where everyone is on the chat. Okay, I see Sheila G is here. Welcome, Sheila. Yoli is here. Jahir is here. Nice. Very, very nice. Welcome, everybody. As you all start coming in, I'll be checking in on the chat. So this is part two of our live on nutrition. Last time we were talking about the mind, body, emotion connection and the different diets. We talked about the mind and diet. And we also talked about, the importance of putting more protein in our diet because it's very important during this phase of life. So today we're digging a little deeper into nutrition as far as staying away from those foods that are causing inflammation and what foods that actually will help us during this stage of life. And then last part, wrapping it up with, what could be behind our emotional eating. Okay, so for those of you who are already subscribed, all you have to do is click in the chat box and chat away. If you're new here, just hit the subscribe button. If you wait a minute, then you'll be able to join in the chat. I love hearing from you and interacting with you. So if you could subscribe and hit that chat box and start chatting, that would be great. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. Karen's here. Hello, Karen. Welcome. Nikki is here. Welcome back, Nikki. So good to have you all here. So for starters, I'm going to ask you all, what do you think are the top foods that are causing your chronic inflammation? Any ideas? Just put in the chat. Let me know, because this is important first to identify those foods. If we have those foods in our diet, we're going to focus on cleaning out that pantry because these foods are contributing to our menopausal symptoms. And, that's not what we want to do. We want to eliminate them so that we are helping ourselves to, have a recovery from these chronic symptoms that we're facing. So Sheila says, sugar, you got that. Ding, 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 ding. That's like top number one that's causing chronic inflammation. You got it. Sugar. Nikki says, yes, sugar. Yep, it's one of those things that, unfortunately are becoming, is something that has become very addictive, more addictive than some drugs. So that's why, let's see, Sheila G says also gluten, right? Exactly. So let's start out first by talking, we're going to name some of these. Okay. What are these inflammation triggers? All right. So as you all mentioned, sugar. Sugar is top, right? If we're having, candy and soda, these pastries, the experts are saying that it can be more addictive than cocaine. So imagine that, right? And this is something that we reach for, and that's like what we call our go-to, right? We want something to make us feel better, and we look for sugar. So that's top, anti-inflammatory. Okay, Sheila G says, for me, it's also night's foods, nightshade foods for you. Okay, and Nikki said, wow. Yeah. Wow. More addictive than cocaine. That's right. So artificial sweeteners, aspartame. Experts say it is poison to our gut. As simple as that. Sounds harsh, but sugar is poison. Uh, Things that are better to substitute would be stevia or monk. That's the recommendation to get away from regular sugar, especially if you're adding sugar to things like your teas and so forth. Monk and stevia are the top substitutes for these artificial sweeteners. Okay, so the next thing, number 2, after sugar, fried foods. We may love French fries, right? I am one of those that's like under my food weaknesses, or French fries. And those fried foods, chicken nuggets, if they're using corn oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, no good. Basically, what we've been told, if we want to try to eliminate inflammation, no deep frying. You have to cut out deep frying as part of your, cooking routine. If you have an air fryers are much better. If you want that, we want that little crunchy effect, but that deep frying is just not good for us at all. Number 3 is refined white flour. So you want to try and remove that completely. If you have, white breads and crackers, those type of things, white flour is number 3 for chronic causes of inflammation. Let's see who else put in here. Okay, just checking. All right. So we got it, right? Sugar, fried foods, refined flour. Number 4 is artificial colors and additives. You usually, find these if you're eating those box cereals. A lot of those, box cereals, packaged snacks, if you read the labels, they have a lot of artificial colors and additives. And that's one of the things we have to do. If we're not accustomed to reading labels, that's what we have to get ourselves used to, checking to see what is in the foods that we're consuming, right? Number 4 is saturated and trans fats. So a lot of these heavy baked goods, you're going to find these saturated and trans fats. Again, when you're reading the label, you're looking for, saturated fats, trans fats, hydrogenated oils, all no-nos. Okay, so read your labels. It's important. The other one is processed meats. Deli meats, a lot of times on the go, we just figure it's easier to grab a sandwich. Some of the famous the sandwich places, these deli meats contain high, processed chemicals that affect our inflammation as well. Okay. Yoli says box cereals go for whole wheat. Glenda says bello dia. Hi, Glenda. Welcome. Yes. So basically, if it's in a box, you pretty much know that it's going to be a no-no. It's going to be a no-no for you. So just keep that in mind. The next one on the list is alcohol. Sorry to break the news, but if you're consuming an excess of alcohol, these cocktails with the sugary mixers, all that, highly inflammatory. What's recommended, and it could be a shocker for you, 6 ounces is the max daily. Okay, so you don't want to be consuming more than 6 ounces of alcohol daily. It's not only causing chronic inflammation, it will affect your sleep as well, which we've talked about in previous videos. So just something that you need to be aware of, that you need to limit your intake on your alcohol, right? These fast food combos, again, if we're driving, we're in this high-paced, stress on the go world, and we're driving through the the drive-throughs of these fast food chains, pretty much you're not going to be able to get anything there that's not going to cause you chronic inflammation. All the combinations of the burgers and the fries and the milkshakes, all that stuff, just I'm sure after you have one of those combos, they don't leave you feeling well. because everything that it's doing to your insides, which is damaging, right? Damaging to you. So it matters because it's causing, spikes in your blood sugar, and it's worsening our menopause symptoms, like those hot flashes and those mood swings. They are that inflammation is just contributing to you just being off the charts. So that's why you really want to try, if it's been part of your, regular diet, some of these foods, it's going to take time. You can do it. You don't have to go cold turkey, but we do need to move in a direction of minimizing them slowly but surely. Okay. Let's see what else we have in the chat here. Jolie says highly processed. Sheila G says sodium levels are in processed meats also. I couldn't see for some reason the chat on the tablet blocks off some things. Okay, now I can see it. It says sodium levels are super high in processed meats also. That's right. Super, super high in sodium. Hey, Marsha, welcome. She said basically everything we eat. That's right. Hey, Giselle, welcome. Yes, unfortunately, the majority of foods, if you're going to go out and buy something, it's typically not going to be healthier for you. It's hard because, again, we lead busy lives. We're moms and wives, and you may be caregiving, and you're on the go. There's a lot on your plate, so it's just easier to run out and pick up some food and not cook at home. But if we prep and plan ahead, we can achieve these goals of eating healthy, so that we're not constantly adding to this inflammation that's causing chronic disease. It's amazing. Like we talked about how this inflammation is linked to stroke and cancer and hypertension, diabetes. And then we wonder, how is it that, we all have all these and we're all on medications for these things? Our diet has a lot to do with it. So please take a look at your nutrition, look at what's in your refrigerator, look at what's in your pantry, start reading labels to move yourself in a direction for you to be able to feel better, right? Because you may be saying, I'm trying to do all these other things during my menopause journey, but unless you're taking care of the food, which is a huge part, then anything else that you're doing with your exercise and trying to have a good sleep hygiene, you're kind of negating all that if you're not paying attention to proper nutrition. Okay, so please make that a top priority for you. All right, so moving right along, let's see. Sheila G says, I agree, Marsha. All right, for the most part, that chat is cut off again. I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm gonna have to check to see why sometimes the chat gets cut off. Okay, all right, so let's move on. Now that we've talked about the bad guys, let's talk about what are the anti-inflammatory heroes. So what are some of these anti-inflammatory foods? Can anybody think of any? We know, we're gonna say bye-bye to the sugar and too much alcohol and fast foods and fried foods and so forth. But what about the good stuff? What are the good things, some of the good things that we can introduce? You guys have any idea? Let me know in the chat. I would love to hear what you have in mind, or if you've implemented some of these things in your diet to help you. Okay. Yoli says, I cut out cold cuts for now. Yeah, good. Yeah, we found out those were highly inflammatory. And like Sheila mentioned, a lot of sodium, and that sodium causes a lot of joint pain, which I find, again, I don't know if any of you had the chance to start your food mood journal, but when I was doing my journaling, I noticed things like that. When I'm having those highly processed foods, if I have too much sugar, definitely the next day I suffer the consequences. I have more fatigue, more joint pain. So pay attention to those things, because if you notice the connection, then hopefully that will help you to want to, encourage you to eliminate those foods as well. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about some of those heroes. Number one, red fruit. So we're talking about berries, cherries. When it comes to, the berry family, blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, they have a component in this red fruit that can regulate our hormones as well. So not just minimize the inflammation, but they also help to regulate our hormones. So what's recommended is a handful of red fruit daily that can regulate your hormones during perimenopause. Okay. The number two, leafy greens, spinach and kale are great when it comes to this. Also, the cruciferous vegetables, so broccoli, cauliflower, they're also packed with antioxidants and provide you fiber and vitamins, and they're linked to lowering our inflammation and also cause us to have better heart health. Okay. Giselle says, hey, I wonder who, actually so funny. I wonder who did your hair. You are so funny. I have a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous hairstylist by the name of Giselle Damaris. So if anybody wants the information, I can share that with you. Too funny. Jahir says berries, turmeric. Very good. Yes, turmeric is great for inflammation. Hey, Chanel, welcome. Chanel says, I eat celery, avocado. Good. Jahir says, nuts and seeds. You all are definitely on the right track. You guys got it. You got it moving in the right direction. So these cruciferous vegetables, like we mentioned, the broccoli and the cauliflower, they also have, they're high in vitamin C, vitamin K, and fiber. Okay. And they also support digestion. So you're getting so many benefits in addition to their anti-inflammatory properties. Cabbage, the white and red cabbage, especially the red, offers anti-inflammatory benefits, and it helps lower your cholesterol in addition to inflammation. What's recommended is to eat them raw or lightly cooked. So you don't want to overcook them. Sometimes it happens, you boil the broccoli too long or so forth, and you can see because it gets mushy. So if it's gotten to that point, you went too far. So just raw or lightly cooked to get the most benefits out of it. Okay. Then we have fatty fish, salmon, bluefish, sardines, and with the bones in them, they have a lot of calcium, right? Because these omega-3s are powerhouses when it comes to anti-inflammatory properties. And as Jahir mentioned, nuts, right? So nuts and seeds, walnuts, flax, chia, sesame seeds. So if you do tahini, like the sesame paste, that's great too. And someone had mentioned avocado. Chanel mentioned avocado. Avocado is great because monounsaturated fat. So olive oil and avocado, great for you. Whole grains like oats, quinoa, also great. And turmeric and ginger, which Jahir mentioned, turmeric. So you all got a lot of them. Green tea is also great for anti-inflammatory properties. Beans and legumes, and in addition to them giving you a lot of fiber, right? That's an extra plus. Now, this is an interesting detail that I learned when it comes to the potatoes. Potatoes themselves, but especially when it's cooked and cooled. I don't know if any of you knew this. Let me know if you knew about this. But actually, nutritionists recommend once you cook the potatoes, then you refrigerate them for 24 hours. And that's even better for not only your inflammation, but it supports your gut health. So, something new, cooling them is a great thing. They're low fat, nutrient dense, and they contain fiber and a lot of antioxidants. Okay, so some of the things that you may consider adding, if you didn't have, some of you already are using these things, which is great. But if you haven't, make your list along with the things that you're ditching out of your pantry and your refrigerator. Add these things in, and you'll notice the difference in how you feel. Let's see, catch up with the chat. Nikki says, love salmon. My grandma used to give us mackerel. Yeah, I love salmon too. That's one of my go-tos. Jolie says, overcooked broccoli is horrible. It is. I can't. So once it's overcooked, I don't even want it. 3 minutes is the max for cooking broccoli or cauliflower. Okay, so we got that Tip, thanks for the tip. Sheila G says turmeric works wonderfully for me. I sprinkle it on almost everything I cook. That's great. I had found this recipe for this turmeric milk, and it was pretty good. It was like almond milk with some turmeric. You can just warm the milk up and you add some turmeric, and it was pretty good. So adding it to different things is great, because then you sprinkle it and get the added benefits to that. Okay, Nikki said, I didn't know. Sheila says, what color potatoes? The nutritionist didn't specify what color, so that's a good question. Though I'll check to see if they recommend, but it didn't say. It just said potatoes, cook them and cool them down. But I'll double check that for you and let you know in our WhatsApp chat. Fill you in, okay? All right. Glenda says that's new for me too. Yeah. So learning new things every day. Great. So moving right along to supplements. When your diet alone is not enough, there are supplements that can help. But keep in mind, right, that this is not going to replace your nutrition. Supplements are not substitutes for good nutrition. Okay, that's why they're called supplements. They're helping in addition to good nutrition. Okay, so number one on the list, magnesium. The benefits to that, it's muscle relaxation, sleep support, and mood regulation. So in menopause, we're getting really, really good benefits, several benefits from magnesium. Also, you can get it in food sources like spinach, pumpkin seeds, black beans, right? So magnesium is great. Like I started taking magnesium and I noticed the difference with my sleep support too. Let's see, Ken. Hey, Ken. Hello, welcome. Ken from Georgia, nice to have you. Welcome to our chat here. All right, so in addition to magnesium, vitamin D3 with vitamin K. And, this helps our bone density, our immune balance, our cardiovascular health. So there are benefits when we take the D with the K because it helps with the absorption. Okay, so you can get that from fatty fish, egg yolks, fermented cheeses. This is going to help you with your inflammation as well. A lot of us are missing vitamin D in our diet, in our nutrition. We don't get enough sunlight depending on where you live. So a lot of times we need to supplement that. You need a vitamin D supplement in order to get enough. But, walking outside, sometimes we don't walk outside anymore. We're locked inside, right? On our devices and so on and so forth. But getting a walk outside gives you a good boost of vitamin D. But if you don't get enough, a vitamin D supplement is definitely going to help you, and it's going to be a real boost when it comes to helping you with these menopausal symptoms. The next supplement that's highly recommended during this phase of our life, omega-3s. Okay, so they help with joint comfort, brain health. So if you experience brain fog, arthritis, right, pain, and mood as well, they help you with mood swings, in addition to being, great sources of anti-inflammatory foods as well. So you can get them from salmon, mackerel, chia seeds, and walnuts. Those are some of the areas you can get them in. Let's see. Oh, Nikki says K2. Yes, it's a vitamin. You can get them together. Again, consult with your nutritionist or your doctor to make sure, because again, these are recommendations for perimenopause and menopause, but you have to make sure that these are right for you. But yes, there's a D3K2 combination. And the reason why, Nikki, it's recommended with the K is because it's for maximum absorption. If you can take the D, because some just prescribe the supplement by itself, but you get more benefits if you take both together. Okay. All right. Let's see. Anybody? Donna said, "Hey, Donna, welcome. I have been hearing magnesium is good sleep help. Any amount suggested." Um, I did see some recommendations. I'm going to check back with you on that. I'm going to make a note of that. Make sure I keep the chat open and see exactly what's recommended. I think I did have a note, but I didn't put it in these notes. So I'll let you know, Donna. I'll get back to see what they recommended exactly. But again, check with your doctor too, depending on what else you're taking, to make sure what's right for you. Chanel says, "I eat pumpkin seeds at night, and I noticed I've been sleeping a little better." Good. Good for you. I'm glad that's working out for you. All right. Let's see. Yes, Nikki says I'll ask my doctor. Okay, good, great. All right, good. So moving right on down the line, vitamin E is another important supplement during this time. The benefits are they have antioxidants, and it's also good for our skin health, right? And vitamin E will help you get that glow back. Okay, you can get it from almonds, sunflower seeds, and spinach. Those are the foods that are recommended to get it. Also, vitamin B complex is the next one on the list. The benefits are for energy, metabolism, stress, resilience, the neurotransmitter support, and you can get them from whole grains, poultry, lentils, bananas. Okay, so some of the vitamins that you want to take into consideration. But again, I want to emphasize, vitamins are only to supplement nutrition. You cannot substitute supplements for good nutrition. So you can't go through the drive-through at the famous fast food place and eat the burgers and the fries and consume the sandwiches with the highly processed meat and have all the sugar and alcohol, and then say, if I have these supplements, I'm going to be okay. It'll wash away. It doesn't work like that. It would be nice, right? We could eat whatever we want and then just wash it down with the supplements, but no. So it's important to focus on good nutrition that you can get from food, and then you can supplement it, because typically it's hard to get all the nutrients we need from our food. All right. So keep these things in mind, and again, make the transition slowly but surely, because it's cold turkey. We don't want to shock anybody's system when they're used to the fast foods and all these. But you can do it, especially if you think about the long-term good, the benefits, how much better you're going to feel, because as we've heard over and over again, you are what you eat. And so if we're eating the junk, we're going to feel like junk. And so that's why, we wake up and we have the aches and pains, and we have the brain fog, and we can't sleep, all these things. Again, it's a domino effect, right? We talk about the holistic approach to our health, which includes everything: our nutrition, our exercise, our emotional health. We can't be completely healthy if we're disregarding, one of these areas of life. Okay. All right. So did we get everybody? Okay. All right. So now moving right along to a very, very important part of this live, near and dear to my heart: emotional eating. How can you get support for your emotional eating? And what happens when your heart feels empty? Then sugar may seem like the only fix, right? But we're going to reframe that. When there is deep sadness and we don't find pleasure in life, then the body starts to look for pleasure in sweets and carbs, right? What it thinks is really pleasure. So that's why there's a very important question that I want each and every one of you to ask yourself when you're reaching for that food that you're going to put in your mouth. What do I really need right now? What do I really need right now? Because again, if you constantly are having that sugar craving, and I, talk about this because I used to have what we call that sweet tooth. And it was after I ate, always, right? Had to have that something sweet, had to have that something sweet. And until I really started to focus on taking care of my emotional health, then it was like I realized that craving for sugar, it was like trying to get a satisfaction from something that really couldn't satisfy me. So it was thinking, right, that that sweetness that was missing, that I could get it from that artificial sugar. And that doesn't happen at all. So ask yourself, what do I really need? Why am I reaching for the donuts or the cookies or the cake? Is it because there's some sweetness that's missing in my life and I'm trying to substitute it with that artificial sugar? That's what we're going to, dive a little deeper into today, right? Sometimes maybe we're eating well, for the most part, but then we're disconnected from certain things that bring us joy that we're neglecting, right? Maybe we love to dance and we don't dance as much as we used to anymore. Or, we had a hobby like painting or playing an instrument. We used to laugh more. We hardly laugh anymore. So, any of these things, some of us, unfortunately, we've forgotten how to just sit back and enjoy ourselves. And that comes because of the stresses in life. We just get bogged down with so much stress, running and ripping and running, that we don't get a chance to relax and bring it down. And so we're reaching for the sugar, and because we're lacking that joy, the deep sense of pleasure in our life. So that's why I want you to stop and analyze that, right? And there's certain things that I want you to think about before you reach for the sugar. One, how's my sleep hygiene? Maybe you haven't been getting enough rest the last few days, right? It's been going on, maybe a week more. We're in sleep deficit. So, of course, that sleep deficit is going to affect our mood. It's going to affect how we feel, and you feel like you need a pick me up because you're feeling low. So, what do you think is going to pick you up? That sugar. That sugar. Before you reach for the sugar, maybe try to take a power nap, maybe a 10-minute power nap, and see if that helps to rejuvenate you a bit. But you have to make sure that you're having that sleep hygiene. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day is really important to regulate our sleep. And it's a challenge, right, because of our schedules, but that makes a difference between you feeling that low, reaching for artificial sweeteners instead of taking care of yourself, right? The other thing could be you need some fresh air. How's your exercising going? You've been off your little exercise bandwagon, and maybe that's why you're feeling more sad, you feel a little depressed. Exercise could be lacking. So before, again, you reach for the fast food or the fried foods, all these things that could be causing long-term damage, examine how are you doing with your exercise, right? How are you doing with your self-care in general? Because we say, and one of my sayings is self-cure is more than a manicure. But at the same time, we do need to show our bodies that we're caring for ourselves in that way too. So maybe you haven't had a mani-pedi in a while, or a facial, or that deep condition that your hair needs, right? You just sat and really, washed and conditioned your hair the way it needs. You've been wanting a massage for a long time and you haven't had it. So what the lack of self-care is also pushing you in a direction to have those unhealthy cravings. So if any of this resonates with you, let me know in the chat. Let me know if you've connected at all. Lack of sleep, your lack of good nutrition, lack of exercise, lack of self-care, to maybe poor food choices. Have any of you made this connection at all? Let me know in the chat. And that's why I'm encouraging you to do the food mood journal, because there's a connection. And when you catch that connection, it will prevent you from really making some of these poor choices that are damaging to us. Also, your time with friends can be something that really boosts your mood and contributes to you making better choices. I know sometimes when we go out to eat, it's hard, right? And that's automatic for us. When we think about, hanging out with our friends, it's like, let's go out to eat. And most of the restaurants may not have healthy choices for us, but we can think ahead, think in advance when you go out. Most places have a menu online that you can kind of check out and plan ahead so that you can make better choices. But just spending time with your friends is a great opportunity to boost your mood, but you don't want to take away from that mood booster by, making poor food choices. Because I know for me, quality time with my friends is like one of the, greatest vitamin injections. I know I went up to New York a couple of weeks ago and, was able to meet up with friends and just talked for hours and hours at a time. And it just feels so good. It fills me up. And, my heart was happy. So I want you to think about that. What fills you up? What makes your heart happy besides trying to fix things with the sugar, with the, artificial sweeteners, those poor choices in food? Can you think of something and let me know in the chat what fills you that you may be neglecting that can be a better choice for you? Let me know in the chat. Okay? Because I want you to really think about this. It's important for us to do some self-reflection about what's going on and leading us to seek pleasure from other things, sugar, carbs, processed food, right? And trying to satisfy what's missing, fill the holes in our lives with these things. So we're going to go into a deeper dive, because let's say you've done an analysis, right? You are, doing pretty good with your sleep. You are exercising. You're trying to include these hobbies that bring you joy in life, but you have these ongoing cravings. Then what could that be a signal of? It could be a signal of grief, past trauma, or unmet needs, for connection, like we were talking about. Are you feeling an emptiness, a sadness, lack of energy? Do you just want to cry and just it's unexplained? I just want to cry and I don't understand out of nowhere why I was feeling fine and now I just want to cry. So you could be feeling like nobody understands me. I'm always misunderstood. So analyze what's the emotional cause, and then I encourage you to work on it. If you're feeling, down, we're going to look for pleasure in something that our brain is trying to fill that need, right? Your body is saying, I need something to make me feel better. And your brain is saying, okay, let's give that to you. Let's give that to you at whatever cost, because whatever is accessible, it's what it's going to reach for. And if you only have these unhealthy choices, that's what it's going to go by. But then we have to dig deeper into what's going on emotionally. And even, for those of us that have been on this journey to emotional wellness, taking a step back and analyzing is important. And I'll give you an experience, recently, we lost a friend suddenly and, very, very sad, unexpected. So like I said before, I used to have these, sweet tooth cravings all the time. But once I started working on my emotional wellness and I realized, stop before I reach for the sweets and figure out, what do I really need? What's going on? Is it that I'm tired and I need more rest, or I haven't been exercising, or I made some, poor choices in my nutrition this week? Being able to heal from childhood wounds and trauma has helped. But I noticed we had a memorial service, and after the memorial service, it was like, people made that they had all this food that was prepared, and of course desserts. And so, all right, was going to have a piece of cake, and usually we're entitled, right? And we're, for the most part, we're doing well. We're not going to say you can never have cake, right? Or you can never have cookies or ice cream. We're going to be reasonable and balanced, and you can treat yourself from time to time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have a piece of cake. But I had the piece of cake, and then I was going for another piece of cake. And I'm like, Gio, why? Why? So as I'm sitting back and analyzing, you know, I was grieving. I was grieving. And that memorial service started to bring back memories of my grandmother's memorial service. I, lost my grandmother a few months back in December. And so I started to get all these flashbacks. And then that's why I was like, okay, I made the connection. I was craving the sweets because I was looking for comfort. And that's what, right? We call it comfort food, but it's not really comforting us because it's a temporary fix. So that's why I had to come home and stop and figure out what was going on. And that's why taking a step back and analyzing, doing this work is so important, because then we're not making it a constant. We can nip it in the bud and bounce back. And that's what I was able to do. So what you need to think about is, like, if sadness continues, there are hidden emotions that could be that grief that you haven't healed from, right? Your body could be screaming that it needs rest, that you need to let go of the trauma, or you need to reconnect with yourself, because we don't take that time to just sit with ourselves, sit with our thoughts, right? Find out what we really need. So if we recognize that we can work on that sadness on a deeper level, because we don't, listen to the signs that the body is giving us, then the body begins to scream. The body begins to scream because it really needs to take care of this, and it doesn't want a quick fix. It really wants you to heal. All right. So is this resonating with anybody? Is anybody relating to any of this? Valda. Hi, Valda. Valda's here. Nice to have you. Valda says, find other activities instead of eating, i.e. bowling. Right. Very, very good. All right. I'm not sure if I'm not seeing the other chats. Just checking to see if there's any updates on the chat. The last chat I see is from Valda. So let me know if any of this is resonating with you, because what we want to do is get down to the bottom of it. Because when we recognize what's going on deep inside emotionally, how the body is talking to us, the body could be talking to us through insomnia, right? Through these cravings, through feelings of being overwhelmed, anxiety, depression, right? Emotional wounds from our childhood, which that's going to take us into a whole nother series, which we're going to be getting into about these childhood wounds. And they're typically 5: abandonment, rejection, humiliation, betrayal, and injustice. So we have to take a step back and analyze our life and see if any of these wounds that we have not healed from could be affecting us and driving us to this emotional eating, which is causing us a lot of this chronic pain, chronic inflammation, this deep depression that unfortunately is affecting so many people. And especially after the pandemic, we've noticed an increase in, mental and emotional health issues. So take the time to do the emotional work, right? If you realize that it's beyond you, you may want to seek therapy to get support from an emotional wellness coach or a therapist to help you identify some of these childhood wounds and heal the root of, your emptiness, what you're really feeling. So free yourself from that sadness, right? Fill that lack of sweetness in your life with the true sweetness that comes from an emotional, healthy life. not the artificial sweeteners that are just temporary quick fixes, right? Like we said, we call it comfort food, but it's a false sense of comfort, because is it really comforting us if in the long run it's going to hurt us? That temporary, enjoyment maybe on, in your mouth quickly fades away. So let's do the work and comfort our soul, not just give ourselves those temporary fixes. All right. Let's see. Sheila G says, yes, I've been experiencing much of what you mentioned. Yeah. Donna says, when I'm stressed, go for the chocolate. I haven't had any in 2 weeks. Yeah, that's what we do. We, hit the chocolate, hit the ice cream. But what is that void? That's where we want to get down deeper to fill the void that's missing in our life. So some of the positive affirmations I want you to think about, in summary, is I honor my body's wisdom and choose nourishment that heals me fully, right? Real nourishment, mind, body, and emotions, right? Also, nourishing myself brings me joy, and I'm worthy of the time spent on healing my relationship with food and my body. Okay. And here's some powerful quotes that I want you to think about too, right? Stop asking food to make you feel better, because unless we're making the right choices, it's not making us feel better. It's making us feel worse, right? So it just reminds us that food cannot truly solve our emotional discomfort. Okay. Here's another one. Eating to turn off feelings doesn't fully appease your feelings, right? Instead, it just adds more psychological and caloric weight to the experience. Okay. That's a quote from Jennifer Tates. Okay. Here's another one. What is truly behind emotional eating? It is our unwillingness to accept or sit with our emotions. But when we eat for emotional reasons, you don't rid yourself of your emotions. So the doorway to freedom and joy, as well as relief from the cycle of emotional eating, is being emotionally healthy. And that is our goal, to reach emotional health. We don't have to, look for food to fill the voids in our life. Okay. So as you do the inner work necessary to curb emotional eating, it is crucial to encircle yourself with supportive people. So get those people in your life. That's Meryl Beck says, get those people in your life that show you that love and support that you really need. That makes all the difference in the world in your life. Again, if you find that sadness, that deep sense of sadness continues, you may need assistance. And that's what we're here for. As an emotional wellness coach, I can help you to identify and heal from emotional wounds that you may have from childhood or trauma that you have not been able to solve. So if you are continuing to experience this deep sense of sadness and you feel a void in your life, please reflect on the information we talked about, review this live to see if you can identify where you have some sweetness that's lacking and you want to fill it the right way. Right? If you know others out there that are, experiencing a deep sadness, depression, anxiety that they're not able to rid of, share this information with them as well, so that we can help, other people get that healing that they need to be able to find that joy in life again, so that, we're, not feeling that sense of loss and, that void in our lives. Okay. I encourage you to not miss out on the upcoming lives that we're going to have, because we're going to be digging deeper into being able to identify some of the things that indicate that we may have some of these wounds from childhood. Watch the other videos in the series as well to recap what we've talked about with self-care, with your sleep, with your exercise, with your nutrition, because again, we need to be taking note of all these things in order to be able to attend to all facets of our wellness. Okay, if you have not subscribed, I encourage you to subscribe, because if you subscribe, you can hit that notification bell, and that way you're not going to miss any of the good stuff that's coming up, because we're going to keep the conversation going. Our goal, again, is on this journey to thrive again. All right. And I believe that you are capable. You are capable. It's in your power to be able to thrive again. Okay. Let's see. Valda says, find activities with friends instead of just eating. Bowling. Sheila says, yes, I've been experiencing much of what you've mentioned. Donna says, when I'm stressed, I read that. Reach for the chocolate. Sheila says, I was stressed yesterday, so I went to the pier and watched the sun reflect on the water and the dolphin fish. That was very calming. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So you did something that was a positive action to help yourself internally, deep and emotionally. So that's great. Donna says, "Hey Sheila, I love those dolphins. I see those. I see them in the morning when I walk in Melbourne Causeway." Yeah. Sheila says, "Donna, aren't they beautiful?" Yeah. So those are great alternatives, right? To making those poor choices. So again, I encourage you to take a deep dive within, so that you don't have to make emotional eating your go-to. All right. So thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can reignite your radiance and thrive again through menopause. So I look forward to connecting with you all again soon. I'll see you next Sunday. We should be back on schedule, because we were off the last couple of Sundays, but we will be back in action on Sunday. So I look forward to seeing everybody. Have a great night and take care of yourselves.